The Northwest Premier, Job Mokgoro, has not officially resigned from his position as nor the provincial legislature, but has been informed of his sacking. We're now joined by Sanco North West chairperson Paul Sebegoe for their position on the politics that are playing out in the African National Congress in that province. Dr. Sebegoe, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. What do you make of the developments on the ground regarding the position of Premier in the Northwest?
The situation has always been a well-known information in the public space. You would appreciate that it has taken quite some months in terms of some speculations. And for that reason, we actually have left everything to the national leadership and the province to formally indicate how they have ultimately resolved on the matter. As it stands now, we continue to wait until such time that all internal matters are resolved so that we are in the position to express a view.
What has been said thus far is all internal processes in order to ensure a new premier put in place have actually been maintained. But we haven't yet seen a resignation from Premier Job Mokgoro. Is there a bit of a hesitancy, perhaps, from Premier Job Mokgoro's part to vacate the position? There really has been no communication coming forth from his end.
Yeah, I thought we have been abreast in the media space. I've seen ANC, they have been on the past 2 days trying to communicate on that matter. We are awaiting until such time that everything is resolved. However, we have also noted that the ANC have already pronounced the Premier-elect, and Sanco, we obviously congratulate the Premier-elect on the basis that, given his background in the organization and his capacity, he has served in various activities of the African National Congress in terms of organizational issues as such. He's a very disciplined cadre. He's a well-known, he's been around, has never been on leave in terms of political organizational matters as such. So as it relates to that, of course, we are comfortable with whatever the ANC decision is directing to. We still have to have a session formally at the level of alliance in terms of how the development would have unfolded. However, it must be known that these matters are matters which have been engaged for quite some time. It's not like something new. We can only wish and hope that ANC resolve its internal matters so that at an appropriate time, formally, then we are then able to get into that space as an organization as such. But nothing is surprising in terms of the outcome, because it's a matter that has been communicated in the past to alliances that have been for backward-forward interaction at that level as such. So we are just waiting that the matter can now be finally resolved, all parties amicably finding each other, so that at least at an appropriate time would also be able to express ourselves in terms of our expectation as it relates to deliverables with regard to the challenges in the province, what we expect to see being prioritized and so forth. We are obviously worried about the extent and level of instability that is in the province at various levels of governance, be it your province and municipalities. And it is for that reason that we really want the ANC to sort out its internal dynamics, so that the output that must come out of these sessions as such must be something that says we have here due community, and this is our strategic approach in terms of resolving issues that could be challenged in the province. And that's where we belong and want to engage.
And as you said, Mr. Sebegoe, this is really nothing new, according to you, that you saw this coming. Some have said that what we're seeing happening in the Northwest province is really an extension of the factional battles that have been at the ANC or internally at the ANC for a long time now. What do you believe it will take, or is it even possible to be able to speak in one voice where all of the factions or both of the factions are satisfied with a particular outcome?
I'm still not convinced in terms of our understanding of what is it classified to be a faction. A faction must have an identity, its characteristics as such, and we don't see those. These are just perceptions from the public space. There are perceptions because
if I may, sir, just jump in here for a moment, please. In the press conference yesterday, Mr. Hlomane Chauke was asked a question about the factions. He did not deny that there was an existence of factions, and he says dealing with factions is a matter of priority, but the factions must not be there for self-interest. He was saying if there are factions, then the factions must be focusing on what ought to be delivered to the public. So from his perspective, he didn't deny that there are factions that existed, but what he was saying is that those factions need to be managed and they need not be destructive.
Yeah, we take note of that. I would rather classify it as internal dynamics within the African National Congress, where there will be a battle of ideas in terms of how people see things. Ours, it's an output or a product that would have been arrived at. Whether it would have been coming from a dominant groupings within those deliberations, it's something else. For us, when it comes and they engage with us, we engage on the basis of an output which reflects the position of the African National Congress, and we will be able to express ourselves in terms of what we expect from the civil society as such. So that's how we're going to engage with them. As it relates to issues of who said what, at what level, and which identity, it's something that the ANC will have to resolve at their level. What we want at this point in time is an output, is an outcome, which outcome we need to engage with. It is that outcome that we are going to have to then align it to the mandate that the African National Congress has in terms of the deliverables. That's what we would want to engage with them on. As it relates to these other issues, these things have been there on the space. If you're going to ask me what would have been my view,
yesterday on the ground, yesterday on the ground we saw some individuals who were saying that they're there in support of Premier Job Mokgoro. They were burning tires and said that they are not going to allow Premier Job Mokgoro to leave without a fight. What is the level of instability that his removal from the premiership could cause on the ground in the Northwest?
Well, sitting here at this point in time, it will be very difficult to anticipate. It may have to be a scientific analysis that will have to be performed. And I want to believe the intelligence are well placed to deal with some of those matters. The bottom line is that you would have Job who have served as a premier. There would have been a lot of people out there who would have appreciated these services, and obviously would expect humanly such reactions to always be there. Whether it was not even Job or somebody else, the same thing would have happened. What is important is for the African National Congress to ensure that they provide a perspective in terms of what would have informed the decision and relate to the public in terms of that part, and that urge public then to obviously rally behind the African National Congress, because all these people are just the executors of the position of the African National Congress, and that's what needs to happen. I wanted just to say that maybe it was too early to make certain pronouncements as such until such internal issues are resolved. It would have probably been better than allowing the public to continuously make expressions based on the communications when the final product in terms of internal administrative issues have not been resolved as such.
And how does something of that nature happen in DSTV, where Chauke has a press conference and then the Deputy Secretary General says it was premature? How does a lack of communication on that level actually even occur?
You would agree it's common that such things could happen. Unfortunately, when they get communicated to the public spaces, what would cause confusion. But issues of what would have happened first amongst people are common, but it is necessary that internally they needed to have strengthened that part of communication. It is not upon us to judge on this. At least the fact that they have communicated, the DSG have communicated, at least that have provided clarity in terms of the perspective in the public space, and we want to believe that that will be sufficiently enough. Otherwise, this time is not the time to judge, but it's a time to try and come up with a way forward that will ensure that at least the Northwest people are comfortable with the direction the African National Congress is taking.
So we thank you very much for your time and your input this afternoon as we focus on the developments taking place in the Northwest Province. That's Mr. Paul Sebegoe. He is Sanco North West Chair.